Welcome to Destination Nightmare, B-Movie Podcast.
I hope you understand. I hope you figured this movie out because I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
It's three movies in one. It's three things in one.
I noticed the kids. The kids were two different or three different sets of kids.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was all over the place.
These were like short. These were like serials, and I think the other three movies were comprised of maybe one or two episodes. But this one, which is Evil Brain from Outer Space, is like three different episodes in one.
Right.
And I'm like, my friend's a big fan of these movies, and I'm like, he goes, oh, you'll like it. It's confusing, but you'll like it. I go, well, it was confusing, and I'm not sure if I like it or not, but some of the visuals were cool. The Playtex living glove monster was cool,
Yes.
that lady at the end, the germ lady, she was cool.
Yeah.
Starman, he's okay. I'm not, I like Ultraman better than Starman, but
Starman's a little paunchy. It's,
yeah, a little bit, yeah. Supergiant. That's what they called him, Supergiant, in these movies. So
yeah, he never got big. I was expecting him to get big for some reason, but
No, he stays normal size or whatever, but he definitely knows like where to be where the action is, because it's like, all of a sudden he pops up and you're like, oh, how did you get there? How did you know this guy was getting attacked by aliens in the woods? How did you know these kids were getting hassled? Oh, well, did he have a watch or something?
He had a watch that could transport him to any place in the galaxy and on the Earth. It also allowed him to fly, and he could speak any language on Earth.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So what is the premise of this movie? Some brain from outer space comes to Earth, and...
Yes, on planet Zimmer. I've heard it...
We're recording already, so,
I've heard it pronounced a whole bunch of different ways. On an evil planet Zimmer, Dr. Balazar, or King Bell, whatever he was.
Yeah, his brain or something.
Yeah, he was killed or destroyed, but they
by
preserved
a robot
brain.
thing or something on his planet or something.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, his brain was preserved, and then he wants to conquer the galaxy, so he chooses Earth first, of course, because everything's Earth.
Because we're the best.
Yeah. And then the Emerald Council on the Emerald Planet, which is a bunch of Japanese actors wearing all sorts of weird costumes and helmets. There's a couple of their robots, and they're just moving their arms up and down. There's one where they look like they're wearing lamps.
They're in the beginning of every one of these movies.
Yeah. So that's the Emerald Council. You had a couple dressed like stars with a giant eyeball. So they get worried. They want to stop the evil brain, so they send Starman, who's got a skin of the strongest steel, and
You're Superman.
They send him to Earth to find the evil brain and stop the Zemarian mutants and Balazar. So now, then you see this guy running from the police. He's got the silver
Let me
suit.
ask you a question before we get to. Did you see this movie when you were a kid or something? Do you remember this? Oh, you did. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I saw this. That's why I suggested it, because it was either this one or the other one I was going to suggest was I think it was the H-Man.
The H-Man's a good one.
That guy turns into a liquid and can drop on people and dissolve them.
And there was also another one called the Human Vapor too.
Yeah, maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. But I thought that was cool because, you see the liquid running across the ceiling.
It was cool.
It
was cool. So you did see this as a kid, okay? Because I never saw these as a kid.
Yeah. So then the cops are chasing this guy, and he's running with the suitcase. They think he's a bank robber, so they got him cornered over a bridge, and he drops the suitcase in the water. And they take him in. He says, "You have to help me find it, because inside the suitcase is the evil brain of Balazar." And they don't believe him. They're like, yeah, whatever. So then they call his boss, Dr. What's the guy's name?
Oh, God, don't ask me for names. But anyway, yeah, he's...
Dr. Kurakawa.
Yeah.
So,
but the guy with the suitcase tells the cops that he's working for the bad guys, right?
Right.
He's working for the aliens or whatever.
And he wants to get the brain and destroy it, or bring it to a scientist to figure out how to destroy it. So, Dr. Kurakawa, who's in a wheelchair, he
tells him to let him go.
Yeah, let him go. Yeah, because he's just he's got a big imagination. So the evil doctor finds the suitcase, and then he.
Well, when he tells him to let the guy go, the guy takes off, and then he gets chased by aliens or whatever the hell they are, right? And that's when all of a sudden, like, Starman in his Clark Kent outfit pops up and beats them all up or whatever, And
he starts fighting and stuff.
And then they take it to, and then after that, what is it? Don't they take it to a good doctor, right? And they try to figure out.
Yes, yeah, a good scientist to figure out how to destroy the brain.
Right.
Chemical or something.
But the brain's in the river. They don't know where it is, but I guess it was found by the evil doctor or whatever. Because remember, when they fought the cops, the brain fell in the river.
Right. Yeah, so I think the evil doctor, they don't show you him finding it.
They don't show you finding it, so you don't know how he found it. Another goofy thing about this movie.
Yeah. So Starman and the good assistant are talking to the good mad scientist.
The good mad scientist.
Going on, and they need a chemical to figure out how to destroy the brain. And he goes, "Well, I'm going to need the brain and stuff." So they go looking for the brain, and in the meantime, there's like a one-legged evil guy on crutches who's like the henchman of the evil man.
Does the bad doctor have a parrot on his shoulder? And he have a bird?
A parrot it looked like the bird changed a couple of times.
Yeah.
And it didn't look alive. It was just like stuff, because it was like sitting at an angle. And...
Yeah, it's like, this parrot is dead. No, it's not. It's just sleeping. It's resting. This is a dead parrot on my shoulder, you. Whatever. Kind of Monty Python there.
So, the one-legged guy tells the evil mad doctor Starman's here. So then he sends out mutants to attack, boats and planes and trains and whatever. And you see like a negative of this weird bat-like thing with long fangs.
Yeah. The first time I saw that guy was on a movie called It Came From Hollywood. Yeah. Which was a theatrical movie, which is a collection of all these B-movie clips, but it was hosted by John Candy, Gilda Radner, Cheech and Chong, and Dan Aykroyd. And it was funny as hell, and they never released it on DVD, just on VHS a long time ago. And we're talking 1981. But it was like all the clips from all these movies, including this one. I remember when that guy came out, the monster, and he fought Starman. I think it was Gilda Radner or somebody goes, "Oh, it's the Playtex Living Glove Man," or something like that. And I was like, "Okay, sure,"
So the good assistant goes out to look for the suitcase, and he goes to the mad doctor's office. He gets...
And of course, when he goes to the Mad Doctor's office, there is a sign outside the door that says Mad Doctor.
Mad Doctor. Yeah. So then he gets knocked out, and he's being followed by a cop, because they start to believe that there's monsters all around, and Starman's here and stuff.
Excuse me.
So I don't know if they get the brain yet, but
No, I don't think so.
so he, the good assistant's knocked out. So what the Mad Doctor does is to send an evil mutant, the Bat mutant, with the long fangs, after the Doctor. And then you see the mutant monster's wearing like very skin tight.
Yeah, it's very strange.
suit, and you can tell it's a boy.
Yeah, you can tell.
So anyway, he's got solid cobalt nails which can cut through Starman. So as the monster's attacking the Doctor, Starman comes in and he starts fighting with it. And then the fight sort of...
They're jumping all over the place.
Yeah, it spreads. That's another thing. This movie, there's a lot of jumping up and down and stuff. And anytime that monster appeared, you always had this weird quacking noise that it was supposed to be making. It sounded like a duck call. So anyway, they're fighting in the city, and then suddenly the monster splits into two, and the police are trying to shoot it, and the Starman's fighting him, and then suddenly they fly away, and he's like,
oh, that's right. Yeah, because when they shot him, it says it mutates into two or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So he said he's gonna follow them to the evil base. In the meantime,
there's another storyline coming in.
Yeah, working around the clock to find a thing for the chemical that's going to destroy the evil brain. In the meantime, human-looking mutants, because he creates all these mutants from this giant germ that's in this glass case. So he sends all these human mutants. They're all wearing like white trench coats and black hats. So they're robbing banks and whatnot, right and left, and committing, like, attacking people and stuff. So
So then at some points the kids get involved or something.
Yeah, I think the mutants attack the Doctor. Human-looking mutants attack the Doctor and steal some of the plans. And then these other kids who aren't related to the kids you see in the very beginning, which we didn't even mention.
Yeah, right. Because it's a confusing mess.
They see the Doctor injured, so they take him to a secret, which is supposed to be a private hospital, but it's a secret Sumerian base. That Sumerian is the planet where the evil Doctor comes from.
Right.
So the cop brings him there, but he's suspicious, and so some goons come up to fight the detective, some of the mutant goons, and then Starman comes up, and then again there's a lot of jumping up and down, jumping up backwards.
Yeah, there are a lot of martial arts-ish fights. They fight different.
They fight. Yeah, so.
And this movie's 1950 something, by the way, too. I think. I don't think it's from the 60s, is it? It's like 59.
No, I think it was purchased and then done in the 60s. Brought together, three things brought together.
It was edited together in the 60s, yeah. But the original, wasn't it like from the 50s or something? I'm gonna double check. Anyway, keep going with the.
All right, so I don't have my notes because this movie is confusing as hell.
Oh, tell me about it.
So then the Zimmermans decide to kill the kids for some reason because they're partners with Starman. So they're fighting, and the boy gets hurt, and then they take the boy to the same suspicious private hospital, which is really a Sumerian base. And then the kid is like, he doesn't want to stay there. And he sees the doc out in the garden, and he's like looking at him, and then he sees the Doctor move like a part of a column, and a secret door opens. So that's what he does. He moves the thing, and he's sneaking around in the underground lab. And in the meantime, the guy...
It was made in 59. But released here in the U.S. in 64.
Okay, the boy's sister sends Starman to check on her brother, and then he gets inside the base, and then they start attacking again and fighting. He's supposedly he's made of steel and stuff, and he's hitting people right and left, but he's not hurt. Doesn't seem to be hurting them much.
No.
So then they have everybody escapes from Starman. So now there's a new plan. They're going to assassinate some Middle Eastern dignitary. So you see the cops, a big crowd of cops trying to sneak around and not be seen. You see Starman, we don't see Starman, but you see the plane land, and then the guy get out, and there's a bunch of
reporters or something, or cops or something.
They're bodyguards.
Bodyguards.
They got weird looking faces, and they're walking around this a Middle Eastern guy with glasses and the head thing and a turban around his face. So then the mutants come up, and they start shooting at the potentate or whatever he is. Then he stands there and he removes his cowl and he goes, "I'm Starman." And the guy goes, "Ooh," and they're all surprised and they all back up. And then he goes, "We knew of your plans, and so we foiled them." And the bad guy goes, "Well, where's the real potentate?" And Starman turns around and goes, "Here he comes now."
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. Why would you have this guy walk into a dangerous situation when the whole point of you getting dressed up as him is to prevent him from walking in? So there's more fighting right and left. The cops come, they're fighting, and and these fight scenes go on forever.
Yeah, well, action.
The evil doctor, using all the mutants, the weird bat-looking one and the human-looking ones, they're all created from this giant germ that's pulsating in this sort of glass case.
That man-woman at the end, she was a germ too, right?
Yeah, he makes her a germ, and she's got some kind of nuclear power in her fingertips or something. So if she scratches him, she can destroy Starman. So there's a fight with her, and he's jumping around, and he's beating up all the human-looking henchmen and fighting her and stuff. And fight.
And did the Playtex Living Glove man show up again? Or no, he was killed. So, yeah. He was killed at the end, right? He was killed.
Yeah, but I think at the end too, he also joined the fight. And and everybody's fighting right and left and stuff. And then the cops show up, and the kids show up, and the parents show up. Everybody shows up at the end, and he defeats everybody. And then they take some mutant, some chemical, and they destroy the germ. But then they use the same chemical or similar chemical on the evil brain. I don't think they should. They showed
the brain. They said, "Where's the brain?" And the guy goes, "I think it's in that room over there." And then they walk in there. Oh, good guess there, buddy. I think it's right over there. Oh, okay. There's a little jar.
They destroy the brain. Everybody's happy, and then Starman smiles and he says something, nice to the kids, and then disappears. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know which came first, but those mutants at the beginning, those alien guys that show up, they remind me of something from Green Lantern. Now, the early Green Lanterns may have been after this, I'm not sure, but they sure remind me of something Gil Kane either inspired them or were inspired, or he inspired them or they inspired him. because they just look like something out of old DC sci-fi comics or whatever. They're cool. And the narrator, if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't know what the hell was going on. Even with them, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think one was some evil. The three movies. One was like there was a secret agents.
Yeah.
And then another one was a nuclear threat. And then the third one was something about these weird aliens. So.
Yeah. The narrator, I think, was a gentleman named Brett Morrison, who played the Shadow on radio back in the day. He did a lot of voiceover work, and I think this was done with New York voice people who worked on AIP movies or whatever. And I mean, they did a good job for the most part or whatever, but yeah, it's a confusing mess. Now, I don't know if the other ones are easier to understand, but this one was a mess. I mean, they did other things after this, like Invasion of the Neptune Men, and then years later was Ultraman and all that stuff. So this was the original. I think it was the original Japanese superhero. Maybe there was one before him. I don't know, but
yeah, I'm not sure. But I don't remember. But these movies, and a lot of these movies, always seem to have kids involved.
Yeah, because they were made for kids.
And the kids always
get in trouble.
Was getting in trouble,
and Starman has to save them.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was growing up. You always see kids like this. You had to worry about quicksand or lava. You had secret doorways and stuff. So growing up, you're like, wow, there's going to be a lot of weird shit I'm going to have to deal with as an adult. And I've never found a secret passageway or
different kind of weird shit you got to deal with.
Different kind of weird.
Yeah, it's not secret passageways or space aliens. It's other bizarre forms of life that you got to deal with on a daily basis sometimes. But at any rate, yeah. As a kid, I never really got into these movies, Godzilla and all that stuff. I never got into it for whatever reason. I do like them now, I really do. But as a kid, it was like they just looked cheap to me, but I grew to appreciate it because of just that era and all the movies and all the stuff that's on television and all that stuff. So I did grow to really appreciate it, but it was never like number one for me. I never saw Ultraman as a kid. I never saw. I saw Godzilla as a kid. I may have liked the first one, but I never liked any of the stuff because whenever I saw it, basically whenever they put like a movie on, if I was watching it with my friends, they would goof on it, so I was like, haha, yeah, that's right, look at the strings, look at this, look at that. But I do enjoy it now, which is weird because I should have liked it more as a kid.
I remember there's a newspaper that I subscribed to, Monster Times.
Oh, I used to buy that. You subscribed to the Monster Times? Wow.
Yeah, I used to. And they did. I remember them running a poll, the king of what is the number one monster, and Godzilla won. And I'm like, Godzilla? How could Godzilla? There's so many other cool monsters.
Kong, I was a Kong fan when I was a kid.
I voted Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I used to get the Monster Times at drugstores, but I never subscribed to it.
They didn't have them. It's funny, I'm living in Brooklyn. You think you could get almost anything.
Sure, it was made there.
The one or two places I would go to had limited comics and limited.
That's very weird.
Papers and stuff. Yeah, they had Famous Monsters and one or two other ones, and they were up near the Hot Rod magazines. But Monster Times I never saw.
Do you know that I went to Walmart the other day and they revived one of those Hot Rod magazines with cartoons in it? Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, it was a Hot Rod magazine and it was comic strips. I would have bought it if it wasn't $8 or whatever, but I was like, man, look at that! Wow, that's pretty damn cool that they actually revived these. I never bought them as a kid either, but I liked looking at them,
Yeah.
No, we talked about this before. When I was a kid and you went to the drugstore, they were all right there. They weren't hanging up there where you couldn't reach them. Right. They were all right in front of you. I mean, if you started looking at a Stag magazine, maybe somebody would give you a hard time, but I remember Famous Monsters, Monster Times, Quasimodo's Monster Magazine, Monster Worlds, Modern Monsters, all that stuff. At some places didn't carry them. Like 7-Elevens didn't carry them, as I remember. You had to go to there was another convenience store called U-Totem, and they carried them. And then there was some drugstores that did too, but I guess they had different distributors or whatever, But I remember as a kid, real little kid, when I was living in Queens, I remember like newsstands having all that stuff out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have any newsstands in your area there with all that?
We did, but it was probably too far. They were usually because where I lived in Brooklyn, it was more residential.
Oh, okay.
There was some shop like 7th Avenue. I lived on 10th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue. 8th Avenue was just pretty much residential. 7th, you had stores and stuff, but it wasn't really shopping. We had to go down to 5th Avenue to really go to the shopping area, and they had newsstands there and stuff. And I wasn't allowed to go there.
Was it far to go from where you lived to 5th Avenue?
As a kid, it seemed far.
So there were long blocks then, right? There weren't short blocks.
There were long blocks. But as an adult, I realized, man, everything was just closer than I thought. But I was I think I was 12 when we moved.
Yeah.
But it's my mom's like, don't go off the block when you're going out.
Yeah.
So if you do, just make sure like you're with friends or people. Look at them there.
Yeah, when I had
friends who were like riding on subways.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Hitching rides, doing all that stuff. Yeah, I remember where I used to live. I was lucky because, like within walking distance, there was like department stores, strip malls, a movie theater. I'm talking about, within 2 or 3 blocks away, maybe 4 blocks away. And then there was the mall, which was half a mile away. And back then, I didn't care. I could walk it with no problem. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh, okay, sure, I'll go to the mall. I mean, I didn't do it every day, but I'm talking about when I'm 12 or 13. When I was younger than that, they wouldn't let me do it. But by the time I got to high school or junior high or whatever, it was like, well, what are you going to do? I never got run over. I never got anything like that. I was like, okay. And back then in the 70s, it was not that dangerous. I mean, Brooklyn might have been a little sketchy in some areas, but I lived in the suburbs. It wasn't dangerous at all.
Yeah. When I was 12, we moved out to the suburbs, and then I was like, in the middle of nowhere, and
Long Island, right?
Yeah, Long Island. If you didn't have a bike, forget it. I think the closest store was like it was a 7-Eleven, 20-minute walk.
Really?
Yeah, and they didn't carry a lot of comics or whatever, and there was parts of it where there was no sidewalk to walk on, so I had to walk in the street.
You lived in the woods or something? Woodsy?
It was just a rural, suburban area.
Rural, yeah.
Those places, you need a car to get anywhere.
That's like where I live now,
Yeah, so it's still like that. There's no stores around. It's
really wow.
7-Eleven is the only store there. Well, there's a deli up at the corner, which I think they got rid of because because there was a railroad up behind it, and I think the railroad bought the land and tore it down. Something, I don't know.
So you kind of had a hard time getting to stores to get books and stuff like that. But you had an older brother, didn't you, that drove or something like that? Or
yeah, he was off doing his own thing and stuff. So usually you would, like Friday night or Saturday morning, we'd drive up to the supermarket, and so I could go to the drugstore there, or sometimes the market carried comic books and whatnot. Yeah. It was a pain in the ass, really.
No, man, I guess I was lucky because I remember I had a 7-Eleven. There was a U-Totem, which was, they were all within 2 blocks. There was another convenience store behind the movie theater. So those were three places you could hit. And then when I couldn't find anything, I would bug my dad to take me to. We'd have to drive to this drugstore on Palm Avenue, and that place was like greatness. They had everything. They had 2 comic spinner racks, you know,
cool.
and the magazine racks. I was like, oh my god, you know. So yeah, it was. And then there was other 7-Elevens like in the other side of town, which weren't really that far. I used to ride my bike to them.
Yeah.
So there was a ton of places I could get books, you know. But the best places were like the Rexall drugstores. They had the greatest selection of for my area of magazines and comics. 7-Eleven, not that great.
Yeah, they didn't have much, and they weren't consistent with what they got. So you'd have a run of like Spider-Man or
you'd always miss something.
and then like a couple of months they wouldn't get them in. And we get something else in or whatever, and you're like, So then anytime you're out and you're near a drugstore or
you'd hit it hard, you know. You go,
stationery, you'd hit it hard. There was one drugstore that was like 2 towns over.
This is the comic book section of our show here.
Yeah. So there was one store that was like 2 towns over, and sometimes my dad would drive to it. But the good thing about that store is they would have the latest issue on the spinner rack, and then they would have
an older one,
earlier issues behind it.
Oh,
so sometimes
cool. Yeah, right.
Go in there and because I was also getting Planet of the Apes then.
I got those, yeah.
Creepy and stuff. So you could get lucky like that sometimes. But it was it seemed very disorganized how they were doing things. And
so how was how was the TV reception there? Would you get all the channels from New York and Jersey and all that?
No, I had to get cable. We got some channels. If you turned it one way, we got channels from like Eastern
New York City,
Long Island,
okay.
and then Connecticut. If we turned it the other way, we would get some channels from New York and Jersey.
So you would just turn it around to get WOR or whatever?
Yeah, so we turned it towards New York and New Jersey because we were more familiar with those places. And then, like 2014, I think, we got cable, which was just basic, but the reception was like, oh! And you'd get some weird channels, too.
What year did you get cable? I'm sorry, I missed it.
I think it was 74, 75.
That early?
I think. I'm not sure.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because, New York's a big area. Long Island was growing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And the reception wasn't good, so they figured, hey, let's go there and...
Yeah, and I can remember my brother moved to a new development. They didn't have cable, so he wanted to get cable. He says, all right, we'll give you cable, but you have to pay for running the wires into the new development. And then everybody else who bought cable would pay regular price. But if you're the first one ordering it in a new area, you had to pay the whole...
installation, for them to...
Of laying down the new... cable wires. My brother's like, screw you. You put up an antenna.
Yeah, I'm serious, It's like, well, if you're the first one, you got to pay a couple $100, and everybody else will, enjoy it, It's like, okay.
Yeah, I think our first cable bill was like $15.
Yeah, those were the days.
And it was just basic, you got the channels from New York and...
Did you get TBS or anything, from Atlanta?
I think we got like 1 or 2 superstations, which had some weird programming, and then it expanded a bit, and you got some like kid stations, and you didn't know where they were from. You'd watch them like, is this from Canada or like North? Because it's just weird things that just didn't quite make sense on how they did things. And weird.
Were there local channels in? Well, no, the local channels were in New York City, probably.
They had a local PBS channel in Garden City, which was close to New York City. And then they had a TV channel all the way out on the end of the island, 67.
Oh, UHF channel or something.
Yeah, that did some, like a lot of local programming and early TV shows. And then there was another one, I think 48 maybe, something like that, another UHF channel. And then also, no, I think 48 may have come in from, well, one channel came in from Jersey, and I would watch the Uncle Floyd show on it.
Oh, I remember that guy.
Yeah.
The Ramones showed up on there and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember that guy, yeah.
He was funny. He had a bunch of guys who would do things and then weren't that funny. But they were like stuck in, this one guy, Looney Skip Rooney, he was like stuck in the past with comedy and stuff. And
Did you used to watch, maybe it's too early, some show called Wonderama with Sonny Fox?
Yeah.
You remember that? I remember that when I was a kid.
That was a good show with Sonny Fox. Then he left, and then they brought in Bob McAllister.
Oh, really? The comedian?
He was.
Oh, I know who he is. Yeah, I'm thinking of Chuck McCann.
Education, and he tried to make it educational. And,
oh, bummer.
And it got boring, so I stopped watching it. But that was on for like 3 hours on Sunday morning or Saturday or something like that.
When I was a kid, they had another show, and it was, you remember the actor, comedian Chuck McCann?
Yes. Oh, I love Chuck McCann.
He used to read the cartoons. He used to read the Sunday Funnies.
Yeah.
And dress up as Dick Tracy and Little Orphan Annie and stuff. I saw that as a kid, like in the 60s.
I did too. Oh, I love Chuck McCann. He would do anything as he would. I forget which one. He dressed up as Dondi, Little Orphan Annie.
Little Orphan Annie creeped me out because he was weird.
Yeah, because he had no eyes.
Yeah. Dick Tracy. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think something from Terry and the Pirates, like the Dragon Lady or something.
The Dragon Lady.
He would come in and read the comic. There was one, I think, his Dondi. He kept closing the drawer of the desk and catching his finger in it.
Yeah, there was a Dondi movie, but it's terrible.
Oh, it was.
I see it every once in a while.
And he would do, Chuck McCann would do skits, stupid skits.
Yep, I remember.
And he had those puppets that looked like old movie actors and stuff.
That I don't remember.
Well, they were famous puppets, and they had like a Broadway show, off-Broadway show, or whatever.
Here's one that I remember. Maybe you were, since you seem to remember the same things from back in that area a long time ago. I don't know if they showed this every year. Maybe they did, but they used to show that Laurel and Hardy, the March of the Wooden Soldiers. Yeah. They did show it all the time, right? Yeah.
I forget if it was Thanksgiving or...
They did, Christmas. Huh? Yeah.
I think Christmas, because it had Santa Claus in it. And every Thanksgiving they showed King Kong, Son of Kong, and Mighty Joe Young.
That was Thanksgiving, probably.
Yeah, that was Thanksgiving. And then Christmas, they always showed March of the Wooden Soldiers.
Wow.
And Easter, they always showed Wizard of Oz.
Easter? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why Easter. I have no clue.
Because I see that like whenever they showed it on the network, but we had a thing where I lived, and I still love this movie too, where like in the 70s, when I used to go to my parents to like New Year's party on the way back, I'd come home at 1 a.m. or something. They would show the Lawton Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, really?
And I'm talking about for like years.
Yeah. That was their tradition then,
yeah, because I guess the bell's ringing or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
And to this day, that's my favorite one of those movies because he's really, really creepy looking. Not that...
He's creepy in it, but he's
pathetic
good
and convincing and pathos, you know what I mean? You feel sorry for him,
Yeah.
But yeah, they used to show the freaking Hunchback. I was like, okay. I'd come home 1 a.m. and there it was. I go, I don't know, watch it till I fall asleep, whatever. But
I mean, TV used to be like such a connecting kind of thing.
Yes. Same with the radio.
if there was a special on, everybody watched it.
Yep. Yep.
If there was, like usually at the start of the school year, you'd have the season premieres.
Uh-huh.
So you always looked forward to. You always get that TV guide.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you used to go with your mom and get the TV guide and grab it and read it
Yeah.
and mark stuff on it too?
Yeah. Marcus. I would always look for thrillers, mysteries, science fiction, fantasy.
Yeah, right.
Just to see what because sometimes you come across a movie you never heard of and it says thriller or mystery or
melodrama.
Melodrama is another one.
Yeah.
And you'd have they had all these cartoon specials, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yep.
Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I mean, everybody would watch this stuff.
The Ed Sullivan Show, everybody watched it.
Yeah, everybody watched it. So then you'd have like a communal
yes
group of you could talk about stuff. And if you
next
missed
day in
it,
school or something.
yeah, and if you missed it, you're like, oh, that was on last night. Oh, I missed. And you'd like, oh, I'm not going to be able to see it until next year.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing about television back then was it was, besides the networks, it was local. What you saw in one town, you may not see in another town. Like, say, what you see in Long Island, you may not be able to see in Philly. And you're like, what, you mean they showed that? Wow, I didn't know that. I mean, we don't get that here. I go, well, yeah, our local station carries it or whatever, That's all gone.
I can remember one of the first times we got cable. We upgraded to something. And at the time, they weren't showing the Bob Newhart show in our area. But we suddenly got a Boston channel. And that showed Bob Newhart. I'm like, whoa! Because this is even before the internet and YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
Where you could just call it up on command. And it's just like, oh.
When it started getting good where I lived, when the independent stations started showing up, because they showed the old movies and the old TV shows, and cartoons that they weren't showing on,
regular.
You should go to I think it's still up. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was Google News Archives, and maybe there's I found a few towns in Florida, but maybe you can find a couple in New York, and just look through the old TV guide, archives they have on there, and it's funny to watch what they show. Like Sundays they used to show like Hercules movies where I lived. Saturdays and Fridays they showed like monster movies or whatever. Some Sundays they used to show like Sons of Hercules or something like that or whatever. They showed cartoons on Saturdays, but they did show some on Sunday too.
Yeah, not necessarily the good ones. Saturday.
The older ones.
Yeah, Saturday was the cartoon. And then sometimes after school they would.
Yeah.
In our area, in Channel 11, you'd have Captain Jack McCarthy, who would show Popeye.
Yeah.
Then you had Officer Joe Bolton.
Three Stooges.
Show Three Stooges shorts. And I think there was somebody else.
Yeah, I left there in '65, so I don't.
Yeah, so it's TV used to be great, and it was local, so you'd have local
personalities.
Yeah, and like Soupy Sales, I forget where he started.
I remember seeing the Soupy Sales show when I was a kid. Yeah.
I think he started in Chicago or Jersey.
I saw him when he had the New York show.
Yeah, he came to New York and he was real popular, and everybody wanted to be on the show. He had Frank Sinatra on. He had Dean Martin on.
Did you know that he was? I'm pretty sure it was him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I seem to remember watching the show. He was the act, quote unquote, on the Ed Sullivan Show right before the Beatles.
Was he really?
He was, yeah. Because I was watching, like, I think it was him, because years ago this guy gave me, I have him somewhere. It was a DVD set of their 4 Ed Sullivan appearances. And I seem to remember and they had the whole show. And I remember watching Soupy Sales, like, doing his act, and he was doing like some dance called Do the Mouse or something. He had like a mouse puppet or whatever. That's it. That's it. He was doing it in the audience, and then after he was done, like the biggest thing in the world shows up, and like the biggest phenomenon, shows up right after him, But it was like he's doing his do the mousy bit or whatever. But yeah, I remember seeing him. That was another one that I remember from New York. I remember seeing Chiller Theater too, but it was before they had the six-fingered hand. It was just a montage of movie scenes or whatever. But yeah. Those were the days. Then when we came down to Florida, it was a whole different world, but still pretty impressive as far as all the.
Yeah. And then you had all your local monster shows.
Some people had a lot more than I remember. I mean, I talked to my friend in Pennsylvania, and they had Friday a couple shows, Saturday a couple shows.
We just had one guy who did Creature. Well, we had Zachary.
You saw Zachary, huh? Okay.
And then he left or something. And then there was this guy he was like an announcer on Channel 5, and he didn't dress up or anything. He just he wore his aviator glasses and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he had this real deep, resonant voice. He would talk to you about the movies and stuff.
Really? Do you remember his name?
Nah.
Wow.
Nah. Was
it like Raymond or something like that?
Something like that. All right.
We used to have, like I said, we had MT Graves, which was the comedy, goofy-looking, monster-looking guy in the dungeon. There's clips of him on YouTube. I told you about Nightmare Theater. We can't find any of that. And then there was no, it doesn't exist. I don't think. I think that was erased. And then there was they would just show a horror movie at late night every once in a while. And then in the early 70s, they brought up another creature feature show. And, and there was also a show, and I only saw it a few times. It was on a local UHF channel. It was called Tales of the Purple Grotto. And it was a vampire guy. And it was on Friday nights. And I don't remember seeing it much because Friday nights we either went out or whatever. But he was on. And I think MT Graves came back to the local channel in the early 70s, but I never saw him either because if it was on Friday nights, we were probably shopping or doing something. I don't know, whatever. But I never saw it. But the Saturday stuff I did see.
Yeah. The host of Creature Feature was Lou Steele.
Lou Steele, okay.
Steele. I think he was an announcer.
And he had shades on, huh?
Yeah, he had his shades and just sat there. And he had this deep voice, which is why he was the announcer. And
it would show horror movies.
He would show, he would come and introduce him sometimes, or sometimes you just heard his voice. But
would he try to be scary or anything?
He was in a dark area, and I think just the presence was sort of
creepy.
Yeah, but more like mafia boss creepy than
okay.
Monster creepy. You didn't know what this guy was gonna do. But so
I gotta look him up. Lou Steele. And that was in the 60s or the 70s?
I think both. I think he straddled.
Because Zachary was done in the 60s, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in the 60s, and I think early 70s.
There's a clip of it. Did you ever watch Zachary's teen disco show or whatever in the afternoon?
Oh, yes, no. But he used to host a radio show.
Oh yeah.
Rock and roll, the WPLJ, I think it was.
Okay.
And he was originally from Philly, I think. It was cool. So you'd listen to, and he was always Zachary, the cool. Sometimes he wouldn't.
The cool ghoul, right, or something.
The cool ghoul, but he always called himself Zachary, the cool ghoul.
He was around. He lived to his 90s.
Yeah, he was around a while.
Yeah, he lived to the point where he didn't need any makeup to look,
Yeah. He's that old.
I mean, honestly, maybe a little bit of white pancake or whatever. I'm trying to think of another show that was from there that I remember as a kid, but I can't. I know there was Chiller Theater. Okay, here's another one you'll remember. Didn't they used to show the same movie like every day, the $1 Million Movie or something?
Yeah, that was 4:30.
Yeah, that's it.
$1 million movie.
And they had the music from Gone with the Wind, right?
Yeah, Tara's theme, I think it was, or something.
I remember that.
Which was actually cool because sometimes
Da-da-da-da.
see the whole movie, so you'd have to watch part of it, and then the next day you could finish it.
Yeah, right.
And then sometimes, I don't know if you remember this, like a big long movie, like Ben-Hur, they would actually show in 2 parts.
Yeah, sure.
So Tuesday afternoon you'd see part 1, and then Wednesday afternoon part 2.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. I mean, I never watched that, but if I did see Ben-Hur, I would watch it on the networks, not on the not local or anything like that. But yeah, I miss local television, man. There's absolutely nothing here. It used to be kind of like local television, but some areas stopped funding it. Was public access television.
Yeah.
They used to have weird shows on public access television.
Yeah, in New York, public access
that's
television.
That's some sleazy shows on public access.
Usually, yes.
Al Goldman, right? The Screw Magazine guy.
Yeah, and some lady, Robin something.
Yeah.
It's supposedly popular. I never heard of it. I'm watching this and I'm like, wow. This is
Al Goldstein.
This is scary.
Yeah, well, what's his face? Mao from Slow Robot. He had a public access television show.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, in the early 2000s, and he would do like lip syncing, goofing on movies. Like he would edit like a Hercules movie, and pretty much it was just foul language. But it was like one time I was watching a local access channel when I was living down there. And all of a sudden I see a Hercules movie and I hear like F you this and F you that. I go, what? And later I found out from working at the place was like, oh yeah, that's him. He does that show. So that's how we became friends or whatever because of our love for. And he told me that they were considered the bad show on public access, but they pulled the funding, and that was it.
Wow.
It was something Dub 420 or something like that. I think we did on YouTube. I think there's some episodes on there where we did the Evil Clown and Dr. Morbius show hosting it or something.
Oh yeah, were you wearing a?
I was wearing like a wrestler mask.
Yeah.
And a scarf. And he was like the evil clown or whatever, There's some episodes of that on YouTube. They took down some of them, but they left a few of them on there. Yeah. I mean, when I moved from there, he kept that wrestler mask. I have other ones, but he's got that one. That was whatever. But that show, that Creature Feature show or whatever. We had hopes for that, high hopes, but it never panned out. But yeah, that was that Dub 420 thing. That was funny stuff. But it was just vulgar. You know what I mean? They were getting away with murder on there, which I guess Al Goldstein was too when he was doing his.
Yeah, some of the stuff they would show in New York, you're like,
really,
yeah.
like X-rated.
Well, yeah, close to it. Probably as close as you could get.
Wow.
To it, and it's like, ooh, okay. But I mean, New York itself is like I remember once, not on purpose. I was going downtown and it was Halloween, and I forgot about this big parade they have down there, and it was.
Was it a sex parade or something?
Yeah, because it was a lot of lesbians and gays and stuff.
Oh
so
yeah, gay, yeah.
They're dressed out in all their finery or half finery, or guys wearing just jock straps and leather harnesses.
Which is just normal for today.
Painted, yes. But it was loud as hell. I'm like, oh, so I'm trying to get across the street, and I had to take a subway up to a connection, get over, take a different train to get underneath, because it was all closed off and all loud. In fact, any parade you go to, there. It's crowded, loud as hell. You know, people are like 5 or 6 deep, wall to wall.
Yeah.
So, like, I remember walking somewhere. It was the Macy's Thanksgiving parade, and you could see the balloons going by. I forget which one it was, but you know, you see them walking by. But I mean, the crowd, you know, it was like 6 people deep, and again, like wall to wall. You'd have to get there early. It's the same with like New Year's. New Year's, you have to get there at Times Square. It's like 12 in the afternoon.
And you gotta go in your pants or something?
I guess. I mean,
in the freezing weather?
In the freezing
to
weather.
See the balls drop?
Going down, because it's, if you
oh, God.
have to pee, I think what they do is they roll up a magazine and open their flying.
Oh, gross. I mean, you know.
Or they do it on the court. But, I mean, literally, if you move from your spot, somebody moves into it, and you can't.
You can't go back.
You got to just stand there.
Yeah, I'm claustrophobic anyway, so I can't do that.
You stand there for like 12 hours.
To watch a freaking ball drop.
Yeah, to watch a ball drop. It's like, I can do that on TV.
Yeah, Johnny Carson or whatever used to do that.
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve or whatever, whatever. Yeah, those were the days. But anyway, getting back to what originally we were talking about, Evil Brain from Outer Space. I didn't hate this movie. I thought it was kind of like, I couldn't, it was a mess. I'll just say it's for fans. If you're a fan, you'll really get enjoyment out of it, you know what I mean? And it is fun in a bizarre way, but I don't know. I think I'll have to watch it again maybe one day to see if I can figure it out, because it's just such a convoluted thing. My friend tells me that if you really pay attention, you'll get it. I'm like, I was falling asleep at times watching this, so I didn't. I guess I missed the important stuff.
It's like 3 movies. They edited it into 1 movie with 3 different storylines, and sometimes different actors.
There's a lot of fights.
Yeah.
A lot of action at times.
Oh my God.
Couple of monsters.
You could fast forward. You could cut out all the fights and gain like about an hour of the movie.
And some Japanese guys in some kind of bizarre skin tight.
Yes, skin tight Playtex.
Yeah, suits.
Monsters.
If that's your thing. Oh God! All right. Well, we'll be back in a couple of weeks with something else. And anything else you got to say?
How about you watch
more?
It could be true, you know. There could actually be a man named Barnabas Collins, and he could actually be a real vampire. House of Dark Shadows from MGM. See how the vampires do it.
Rated GP. All ages. Parental guidance.
She's different.
She's the girl with the power to turn you on, to turn you off. She's just what Satan ordered for a witch's holiday. She sparks a picture so unusual, only the theater can tell you the title. You don't believe in witches? You'd better believe in this one. She'll blow your mind. In Eastman color, from Joseph Brenner Associates.